Are you currently preparing for your cabin crew interview with Singapore Airlines? I got you. I went for the interview once and managed to get in successfully with one try. Even though I managed to get in with one try, I remember feeling incredibly nervous and unsure about the interview. While all the resources that I found online were helpful, this is a video I wish I could have found while I was preparing for the interview. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Fabi, and on this channel I share my stories about my nonlinear life journey to encourage you to embrace your own journey and feel less alone in the process. If you don't know already, I used to fly as a flight attendant with Singapore Airlines for a couple years, and I've actually posted a bunch of videos about my flying journey. Cool enough, I actually managed to get in with one try, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And so now that the world has started to open up again and travel started to get back to normal, all global airlines across the world, including Singapore Airlines, has started their recruitment process. And I think this is also why I have received a couple comments and questions asking me about the tips and tricks on how to crack the Ask You interview. So I decided to make this video that consists of the end-to-end interview process, including my tips and tricks on how to clear each step of the interview. I'm fully aware of how competitive the recruitment process could be. During my time, there were at least 400 candidates that went for the interview, and at the end only 20 managed to get into the very final step. After the entire end-to-end process, including medical checkup, only 16 managed to officially join the airline. Okay, in this video, I'm going to structure the information into three parts. The first part is the steps alongside the purpose of each step. The second part would be the skills and qualifications that are needed in order to show and demonstrate that you're a good fit for the job. And then the third part would be the preparation that I recommend you do leading up to the interview day. Without further ado, let's get started. The first part is the interview steps. The interview consists of 7 steps. I'm going to break it out and walk you through step by step on what each step entails, as well as my tips to increase your success in passing each of the steps. Okay, step 1, I call it an icebreaker step. So in step 1, what you will do is you will be put in a group, and there will be 10 of you as candidates, and then there will be 2 interviewers. So 2 interviewers and 10 candidates. And what you will do in the first step is you will be given a very simple question, and then you will be asked to stand up one by one and answer the question. The purpose of this step is for the interviewers to see how you communicate, your demeanor, and you can call it like a vibe check, you know? And for this step, my recommendation is 2 things. Number 1 is always remember to introduce yourself before you give out your answer to the question that was given. And number 2 is to give your answer in a concise, structured, and respectful manner. And also, because this job is a very people-oriented job, so remember to also show respect to your fellow candidates, make sure that you pay attention when they speak, and demonstrate that you are listening, because that's also one of the skills that you will need once you start flying as a flight attendant. On the first step, they're going to eliminate quote-unquote 4 people, and then the 6 successful candidates will move on to the next round. The second step has 2 parts, and I call the first part the speed dating round, and then the second part the debate round. So on the speed dating round, what you'll do is you'll be paired in pairs with another candidate. So there will be 3 groups, 2 people in each group. And then what you'll do is you're going to be given a short amount of time to get to know one another. And then once it's your turn to speak, you're going to be asked to talk about what you know about this fellow candidate. The purpose of this exercise is to assess your ability to really create that human connection with another person, because this is going to be something that you'll have to do day in, day out at your job once you start flying. Your passengers, who are technically shortlisted strangers that you have never met before until you come on board, this is a scenario that you would encounter day to day. And so they just want to assess how comfortable you are in managing and navigating this type of situation. And then the second part of the the second step, or I call it the debate round, is that you're going to be split into two groups. So 6 people being split into 2 groups, so 3 people in each group. And then you're going to be given a statement. One group will disagree and one group will agree. What you need to do is when it's your time to speak, you need to share your thoughts based on which group you have been assigned to. And the purpose of this round is to see how you can communicate your opinion and perspective in a thoughtful and concise manner. So I would highly recommend you think about what you need to say and try to convey it in a thoughtful and respectful manner without bringing other people's opinion down, and just stay in your own lane and communicate your perspectives that support the group that you have been assigned to. Once you clear the second step, the third step would be an English written test. And for me, because I went for the interview in Jakarta, Indonesia, and in Indonesia, English is not the first language. So I think the reason why they had this step is because they just wanted to assess your level of fluency in English to make sure that you are good across all aspects, including speaking, reading, and writing. And it was literally an English test that you would typically take in school. So you would be seated in a cubicle along with other people. If you pass this step, you're going to proceed to the next round, and that is a panel interview. This panel interview is like a typical job interview. You'll have that interview with a group of interviewers, usually 2 to 3 interviewers. This round consists of both behavioral questions as well as personal questions. On the behavioral question side, a lot of the questions I remember were pertaining more to the situations that you would encounter on board, and they just want to see like your thought process and how you would handle the situations. Some of the questions that I remember are, how would you manage passengers that are upset when their choice of meal is not available? Or how would you manage a conflict between 2 passengers where they both have been assigned the same seat? These are the things that you would encounter on board regularly. One tip I can say, it's more about demonstrating your emotional intelligence and your problem-solving skills, and also being able to show how you are able to think quickly on your feet. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And on the personal question side, from my experience, they asked me things like, how would you balance your lifestyle with the irregular working hours? How would you manage the feeling of loneliness being away from family during holiday season and things like that? And the purpose of this round, I think, is they want to know if you really know what you sign up for. Because of course there are all the perks and all the great and glamorous things like being able to travel the world, yada yada yada, but at the same time, do you really know what it takes to thrive at the job? So my tip for this one is to really understand your why, to really know why are you interested in this job, and being able to articulate that in a concise and respectful manner, and make sure that that comes across as genuine. If you pass the panel interview round, I feel like more than half of the job is done, because the next step, which is step 5, is all the physical check. So the physical check is broken out into 4 components. The first one is height check, and then followed by a weight check or a BMI check, and then skin complexion check. The last part would be kabaya fitting. Starting from the first part is a height check. So the minimum height to be a cabin crew member of Singapore Airlines for ladies is 1.58 meter, or in American measurement, it would be 5'2". I know that they are pretty strict about this because they're going to measure your height, and then they're going to ask you to stretch your arm to ensure that you can reach the compartment, because that's also one of the things that you're going to be doing once you start flying. So they want to make sure that you're able to perform that duty and you're physically able to do that. If you pass that round, you're going to move on to the second part of this physical check, which is a weight check. I think for weight, their ideal BMI is between 21 to 25, and they're also pretty strict about this. Like if you're underweight or overweight, it could actually risk your application being rejected, so something to keep in mind. And then the third part would be the skin complexion check. So skin complexion, basically they're just gonna put you under like a pretty bright lamp, or if you do the interview at a hotel and the room is already pretty bright, they're just going to look at your face that way, and they're just going to see like how your skin complexion is overall. And then if there's any problem or something that they think is alarming, they're going to tell you. And I'm going to talk about this more in the last part of my video, which is the preparation part, but just so you know that they do check your skin complexion. Then the fourth part of this step is kabaya fitting. I think this is like the most exciting part for many candidates, because you can finally don the famous Singapore Airlines kabaya. In this step, they're going to ask you to don the kabaya, and then you're going to be asked to literally catwalk because they want to see how you walk, they want to see how you look in the kabaya. And then on top of that, the other thing that they will check is to see if you have anything that's alarming. Usually what they're trying to look out for is scoliosis, and even though this is going to be further checked in the medical checkup stage, they just want to see if it's even obvious already when you don the kabaya. And the other thing that they will check during this kabaya fitting stage is also whether you have visible tattoos, because no visible tattoos allowed. It's a no-no. You're going to be rejected right away, as far as I know. So in general, I will say that they care about how you look overall, and rightfully so, because they put a lot of emphasis and they put a lot of investment in maintaining and elevating the Singapore Air girl image through the kabaya. And if you pass this step, the next step, which is step 6, is going to be a medical checkup in your home country if you're not Singaporean. They're going to ask you to do medical checkup, including x-ray. They're going to also ask you to do a blood test, HIV, and a couple of other things such as dry eyes, color blindness. They are going to ask you to do this at no cost to you. They're going to bear the cost. If you need to do a follow-up check, then you're going to have to bear the cost. It actually happened to me, and it actually sort of put me in a waiting game for a bit. After you clear step 6, everything looks good. They're going to send you an employment contract and also arrange for your departure to Singapore if you're not already in Singapore or if you're not Singaporean. Once you arrive in Singapore, they're going to give you a week. They're going to ask you to do another medical checkup. So this is like the second and last medical checkup, and you need to do it in Singapore, and they're going to pay for the cost. As scary or risky as it might sound, I also know of people who got rejected because their medical checkup in Singapore came back as not good in some way. I think like rejection at this stage is like the worst, because you're literally there already in Singapore and you're like almost ready to start your training and stuff, but if you don't pass a medical checkup in Singapore, they're going to ask you to go home. Now let's move on to the skills and qualifications needed for you to crush the interview. Starting from the skills that are needed, I think you might be able to tell already from the interview steps that I laid out. It actually has a lot to do with soft skills. And if I were to narrow it down to 3 things, I will say number 1 is problem solving, number 2 is interpersonal skills, and number 3 is situational awareness. And I think a lot of this has something to do with emotional intelligence. So if you are able to demonstrate these 3 key traits, I think that will increase your chance of being successful in the interview. In terms of qualifications, I've alluded to it here and there. You can check a full list of the requirements on their official website so you know the latest and greatest. If I were to pinpoint a couple key things, I will say number 1 is height, which is a minimum of 1.58 meter or 5'2". Number 2 is within a healthy BMI range. Number 3 is skin complexion. Number 4 is no visible tattoos allowed. Number 5 is fluency in English. Okay, the last part is the preparation that you need to do leading up to the interview. So I think from the interview steps, as well as the skills and qualifications that are needed to crush the interview and to demonstrate that you're a good fit for the job, you might be able to pick up a couple of things that you think you might have a gap in. So my suggestion is to take a proactive approach in making sure that these are under control before you go for the interview. For example, if you know that you have a skin complexion problem, I think it's a good thing to settle that first before you go for the interview. Or another example could be if you think that you need to do something with your weight to ensure that you are able to demonstrate that you're within the ideal BMI range. I think that's also not something that you can do overnight. So it's good to take a proactive approach to ensure that you have one less thing to worry about on the interview day. Okay, friends, that is all I have for today's video. If you are watching this video as part of your interview preparation with SQ, I am rooting for you. If you're watching this video for educational or informational purposes only, now you know how rigorous and lengthy the interview process to join Singapore Airlines could be. If you find this video useful in any way, please like and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. And thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye now.